Milwaukee is underwater, and this is just the beginning.
Now at 5, destructive storms tearing through parts of the Midwest. Milwaukee, one of the hardest hit areas. Torrential rain pounded the city, flooding streets, toppling trees, and leaving numerous drivers stranded on flooded roads. Some neighborhoods saw nearly a foot of rain in just hours. It also forced the last day of the state fair to be canceled as fire crews made dozens of water rescues. Nearly 6 inches fell in just hours. That's about a month and a half's worth of rain for the area.
Flooding event.
The Midwest is experiencing one of the most destructive storm systems in recent memory, with torrential rain flooding streets, toppling trees, and leaving drivers stranded across the region. Record-breaking rainfall has turned Wisconsin's largest city into a disaster zone, with flash floods swallowing cars, shutting down the state fair. And
Milwaukee closing early overnight. You can see these images. Fairgoers first kind of huddling in tents before being forced to wade across flooded parking lots and fields to get to their cars. The Leonard Skinner concert canceled there overnight. We're seeing a ton of video also, just roads flooded, cars stranded. The National Weather Service dubbing this a life-threatening flood event. And first responders out
forcing desperate water rescues throughout the night. The National Weather Service has classified this as a life-threatening flood event, with fairgoers initially taking shelter in tents before being forced to evacuate through heavily flooded parking lots just to reach their vehicles. We're talking about a catastrophic weather event that has left thousands without power, hundreds of homes flooded, and an entire region.
I am declaring a state of emergency all across Milwaukee County to empower our emergency management personnel to deploy more additional resources to activate our state and federal partners to assist us with our efforts right here on the ground within Milwaukee County and to help people be safe. And we want to do this as swiftly as possible. But in the meantime, we want to remind the public to please stay cautious, please stay informed, and refrain from traveling if you can. Make sure to call 911 if there is an emergency. But people can also call 211 to report any property damage such as flooding in your basements, collapsed walls, and lightning-related incidents as well. And so we know that people may see their basements flooded, but please take precaution. Wear rubber boots, wear rubber gloves. There are a lot of debris, a lot of hazards in the water that you may not know about, and we want people to be safe. And so as we navigate the aftermath of last night's severe flooding and storms, I am encouraging the public to stay indoors as much as possible and seek out emergency assistance if you absolutely need it. We've been working with the Red Cross, also standing up emergency shelters on the south side of Haller Park. And so if you want more information on how to stay safe,
grappling with what officials are calling a historic natural disaster, County Executive David Crowley has formally declared a state of emergency across Milwaukee County, emphasizing this remains an active emergency with more rain expected. This declaration empowers emergency management to deploy additional resources and activate state and federal partners to assist with the overwhelming crisis. So what exactly happened in Milwaukee, and why are meteorologists calling this one of the most extreme rainfall events in over 150 years of record keeping? To understand the magnitude of this disaster, we need to look at the numbers, and they're absolutely staggering. Between the evening of August 9th and the morning of August 10th, 2025, Milwaukee experienced what can only be described as a meteorological nightmare. A rain gauge in northwest Milwaukee recorded an unprecedented 14.5 inches of rainfall. That's more than a foot of water falling from the sky in less than 24 hours. To put this in perspective, Milwaukee's previous daily rainfall record was just 1.64 inches, set decades ago. This storm didn't just break that record, it obliterated it by nearly 900%. But the 14.5 inches at Timmerman Airport wasn't an isolated reading. Across the Milwaukee metro area, rain totals were consistently extreme. River Hills recorded 11.42 inches, West Allis saw 10.28 inches, and even central Milwaukee locations recorded over 10 inches.
On record, just shy of 5 3/4 of an inch of rain, the wettest day ever 6.81 inches, and that was set way back in 1986. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch still ongoing. It's been trimmed back a little bit, so now Humboldt, Ames, and Des Moines there in Iowa are under this until 8 o'clock Central. For the next couple of hours, they'll be under that watch. And here's a look at live radar, and you can clearly see where the boundary is as those showers just continue to kind of roll right along that same area like cars on train tracks. And it is going to be problematic as we go throughout the rest of our day today, as we've got several factors coming into play here that will ensure that the moisture sort of...
These aren't numbers you see in a typical severe weather event. These are the kind of rainfall totals associated with major hurricanes or once-in-a-century storms. Milwaukee experienced its second wettest August day on record with nearly 5.75 inches of rain, just shy of the 1986 record of 6.81 inches. The meteorological setup causing these continued flooding concerns involves a stalled frontal boundary across the northern plains and Midwest, creating what meteorologists call training storms, weather systems that repeatedly impact the same areas, dumping massive amounts of rain hour after hour. The National Weather Service didn't mince words about the severity of this event. Saturday, August 9th, became Milwaukee's second wettest day in 154 years of official record keeping. Think about that for a moment. In a century and a half of tracking weather data, only one day in Milwaukee's history has seen more rain than what fell during this disaster. As the rain continued to pour down, the Milwaukee River responded in dramatic fashion. At a.m. local time on August 10th, the river gauge at Milwaukee Estabrook Park peaked at 1119 feet, shattering the previous all-time record of 10.5 feet that had stood since July 2010. This wasn't just a minor increase, it was a catastrophic surge that caught even veteran meteorologists off guard.
We had approximately 65 water rescue assignments for people such as the people that you're witnessing behind us here, who just are smarter than everybody else. We've been telling people over and over and over again, don't drive through the water, but they know better. This is how we have hundreds of vehicles around the city, blocking intersections, making progress absolutely impossible.
Stern warning from Milwaukee Fire Chief Aaron Lipsky as people across Milwaukee are dealing with flood.
The human impact of this flooding was immediate and terrifying. Fire Chief Aaron Lipsky delivered a forceful message about the crisis, reporting that emergency responders completed 65 water rescue assignments overnight. He expressed deep frustration with drivers who ignored warnings about driving through floodwaters, explaining how abandoned vehicles were blocking intersections and making emergency response absolutely impossible. 65 people had to be pulled from rising floodwaters, many of them trapped in or on top of their vehicles as roads transformed into raging rivers.
Chief Aaron Lipsky, Milwaukee Fire Department. Since about 8 o'clock last night, Milwaukee Fire Department has worked extremely hard, taking between 8 o'clock last night and about 7 o'clock this morning approximately 614 separate and distinct emergency assignments. These include everything from the electrical trouble caused by water working its way into electrical components to your regular run-of-the-mill emergency medical service runs, natural gas leaks from pilot lights being extinguished from floodwaters and or water getting into somebody's basement, wires down, trees on wires, transformers exploding, general fires. We had a second alarm fire down in Walker's Point towards the lake. That was a 10-story cold storage building. At the same time, we had another fire on Industrial Road, and we had a number of other fires overnight. And just in that time, we had approximately 65 water rescue assignments for people such as the people that you're witnessing behind us here, who just are smarter than everybody else. We've been telling people over and over and over again, don't drive through the water, but they know better. This is how we have hundreds of vehicles around the city, blocking intersections, making progress absolutely impossible. Am I not supposed to say that?
No, you had a bug.
All right. So here's the point. We need everybody to help us out here. We can't do everything. We can't be.
Firefighters responded to over 600 emergency calls throughout the night, dealing with everything from gas leaks and flooded basements to electrical outages and people stranded by rapidly rising water. Between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m., the Milwaukee Fire Department handled approximately 614 separate emergency assignments. Chief Lipsky strongly criticized drivers who ignored warnings and drove through floodwaters, resulting in hundreds of abandoned vehicles blocking intersections. He warned about the dangers of electrocution in flooded basements and advised against entering water above knee level. The chief also acknowledged tremendous help from about a dozen surrounding fire departments who worked alongside Milwaukee crews through the overwhelming night. Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson held a press conference around noon on August 10th, confirming that while no flood-related deaths had been reported within the city limits, residents were facing major property damage across the region. The mayor and other officials pleaded with residents to stay off the roads and out of their cars, as many streets had become impassable waterways. The power grid took a massive hit from the storm. We Energies, the local utility company, reported nearly 10,000 customers without power in Milwaukee County alone, with another 8,000 outages in neighboring Waukesha County. When you combine these numbers, you're looking at nearly 20,000 households and businesses left in the dark during a major emergency. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers quickly recognized the severity of the situation and ordered National Guard vehicles and operators to support Milwaukee County's response to the severe flooding, particularly in areas still under flash flood warnings. Milwaukee County officials declared a state of emergency, acknowledging that more flooding was expected as the storm system continued to affect the region.
Water coming down. Kids were playing in it like a splash pad. We have seen tons of flash flooding on cameras throughout the area. This is near 83rd and Greenfield, near the McDonald's in West Dallas. That's just south of State Fair Park. Looks like water halfway up some of the cars there as they try to drive through it. And on some more streets outside of State Fair, just being flooded there. Again, we are seeing this kind of flash flooding all over the place. And take a look at this. This is right outside American Family Field, just as tonight's Brewers game was ending, where more of the same. The road looks a lot more like a river. Let's check in now with Chief Meteorologist Tom Watson. Tom, we've seen a lot of rain. Actually, we're going to see with him check in just a little bit more, but we're not the only ones. Take a look at this. This is to our neighbors north in Green Bay that we're getting.
The Wisconsin State Fair, one of the state's largest annual gatherings held in West Dallas, was shut down early on the evening of August 9th and remained closed for its scheduled final day on August 10th. Officials at the fair described how they'd never experienced such high amounts of rain during their time at the park, with flooding affecting facilities similar to what many municipalities in southeastern Wisconsin experienced. The decision came after monitoring weather conditions starting at low, working with National Weather Service meteorologists, and initially thinking they had a 90-minute to 2-hour window for the main stage show. But the storm suddenly intensified with lightning and torrential rain that just kept building, with storms upon storms making it impossible to ensure visitor safety. The USA Triathlon Sprint and Paratriathlon National Championships, scheduled to take place in Milwaukee, were also canceled due to flooding and damage to the course. Athletes who had trained for months and traveled from across the country to compete were left disappointed as the extreme weather made the event impossible to conduct safely. Even professional sports felt the impact. Major League Baseball games and other sporting events in the region faced disruptions as transportation networks became compromised, and venues dealt with flooding issues.
It only took a few hours for Jerry Bretsky.
Be careful, it's very slippery.
As he walks through his home.
It's unbelievable, we still have electricity down here.
And down to his basement.
Total loss.
A casualty of Saturday night's flash flooding in Waukesha. Historic rainfall pounded the county overnight.
It started flooding like the Titanic. There's no stopping it.
He says water rushed in after 11, coming from the backyard into his home. The family's cars washed away. The family itself rescued on rafts.
You can't imagine seeing what I saw last night. It was crazy.
Everything that was in the basement now on the front lawn.
This is all material stuff to us. This really doesn't matter to us at all. It's that everybody made it out of there safe and sound.
Weather experts say Waukesha was one of the counties hit the hardest, with homes hit.
For residents like Jacqueline Zeladon, who lives on Milwaukee's northwest side near Glendale, the flooding represented a personal catastrophe. One homeowner described the devastation. It started flooding like the Titanic. There was no stopping it. Water rushed into homes after 11 p.m., cars were being washed away, and families had to be rescued on rafts. 3 feet of floodwater poured into basements after 2 a.m., destroying everything stored below ground level. Furnaces, water heaters, deep freezers full of food, CD collections, clothes, and appliances, all ruined by the rising water. These experiences weren't unique. Neighbors reported flooding up to their thighs. The entire neighborhood was dealing with the same devastating reality. Basement flooding that wiped out years of possessions and thousands of dollars in property damage. The scene outside homes was apocalyptic. Debris floated down streets that had become temporary rivers. Manhole covers had popped off from the pressure of overwhelmed storm drainage systems. Even pets were affected. Lost dogs wandered the flooded streets, clearly disoriented by the transformed landscape. This wasn't just a local Milwaukee problem. The heavy rainfall was part of a much larger weather system affecting the central United States. The National Weather Service warned that repeated rounds of heavy rain were likely to produce additional instances of flash flooding from the Central Plains to the Midwest on August 10th and beyond. More than 10 million people across the Midwest remained under flood alerts as the system continued to produce dangerous conditions. The storm system was particularly focused on Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri, with each state dealing with varying degrees of flooding and storm damage. But Milwaukee found itself at the epicenter of the most extreme rainfall, making it the poster child for this historic weather event. Transportation infrastructure took a severe beating. Flash flooding forced the closure of major interstate highways, including portions of I-43, I-41, and I-94. State highways throughout southeastern Wisconsin became impassable as water levels rose beyond safe driving conditions. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation issued urgent warnings for motorists to exercise extreme caution and avoid flooded roadways. One particularly dramatic closure affected access to American Family Field, home of the Milwaukee Brewers baseball team. Brewers Boulevard was completely closed due to flooding, with southbound traffic blocked at the stadium interchange and northbound traffic closed at National Avenue. Even fans trying to attend the team's PM game on August 10th found themselves unable to reach the stadium through normal routes. The Potawatomi Hotel and Casino experienced its own flooding disaster when the underground valet garage was inundated with water. The facility announced on social media that the garage would remain closed until floodwaters fully receded, leaving guests and visitors to find alternative parking arrangements. Businesses throughout the region faced similar challenges. Shopping centers, restaurants, office buildings, and retail establishments dealt with flooded parking lots, water-damaged inventory, and the inability of employees and customers to safely travel to their locations. The economic impact of the flooding extended far beyond just the immediate property damage. The National Weather Service extended flood warnings through 10 a.m. local time on August 11th, recognizing that the lingering effects of the deluge would continue to pose risks even after the heaviest rainfall had ended. Additional rain was forecast, raising concerns that already saturated ground and overwhelmed drainage systems wouldn't be able to handle even moderate precipitation. Climate scientists and meteorologists are already analyzing this event within the broader context of changing weather patterns. Extreme rainfall events like this one in Milwaukee are becoming more frequent and more intense across the United States. The warming atmosphere can hold more moisture, leading to the potential for more devastating precipitation when conditions align for major storms. This Milwaukee flooding event fits a troubling pattern of increasingly extreme weather across the Midwest and Great Lakes region. Cities that historically dealt with manageable rainfall totals are now facing precipitation events that overwhelm infrastructure designed for more predictable weather patterns. The recovery process for Milwaukee and surrounding communities will likely take weeks or months. Insurance companies are preparing for massive claims related to flooded basements, damaged vehicles, ruined personal property, and business interruption losses. Many residents will face the difficult process of cleaning out flooded basements, replacing damaged appliances and belongings, and dealing with potential mold and structural issues. Local emergency management officials are coordinating with state and federal agencies to assess the full extent of the damage and determine what resources will be needed for recovery efforts. The declaration of a state of emergency opens the door for additional funding and support from higher levels of government. For the thousands of residents dealing with flooded homes and damaged property, the immediate focus is on safety and beginning the cleanup process. City officials have established reporting systems for residents to document flooding, request assistance, and report ongoing hazards like downed trees or disabled vehicles. This historic flooding event in Milwaukee serves as a stark reminder of the increasing power of extreme weather and the vulnerability of urban areas to rapidly changing conditions. As climate patterns continue to evolve, cities across the United States may need to rethink their infrastructure and emergency preparedness plans to handle rainfall events that would have been considered impossible just decades ago. The story of Milwaukee's record-breaking flood is still being written. As cleanup efforts continue and the full extent of the damage becomes clear, this event will likely be remembered as a turning point in how the region prepares for and responds to extreme weather. For now, residents are focused on recovery while meteorologists continue monitoring conditions for any additional threats that might compound the disaster that has already unfolded.